At 7:42 p.m., under the fading glow of Calgary's winter sky, the iron gates of Thornwood Estate rose ahead of Marcus Bennett like a wall meant to keep men like him out. His pickup coughed to a stop, headlights flickering against the guard booth. Before he could speak, a uniformed guard stepped out, jaw tight, hand striking the driver's window with a sharp crack. "Sir, state your business. This neighborhood doesn't allow loitering." From the back seat, 6-year-old Emma whispered, "Daddy, did we do something wrong?" Marcus swallowed hard. This was supposed to be their first peaceful night in the home his late wife had chosen, yet here he was, being sized up like an intruder. "I live here," he said, steady but firm. The guard scoffed. "You? In this estate? Try again." Marcus felt the weight of every door life had closed on him, but tonight, one gate was about to open whether they liked it or not. Because in less than a heartbeat, the system behind those steel bars would reveal the truth, and nothing in Thornwood would ever look the same. If you want the next part, like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. At 7:42 p.m., under the fading glow of Calgary's winter sky, the iron gates of Thornwood Estate rose ahead of Marcus Bennett like a wall meant to keep men like him out. His pickup coughed to a stop, headlights flickering against the guard booth. Before he could speak, a uniformed guard stepped out, jaw tight, hand striking the driver's window with a sharp crack. "Sir, state your business. This neighborhood doesn't allow loitering." From the back seat, 6-year-old Emma whispered, "Daddy, did we do something wrong?" Marcus swallowed hard. This was supposed to be their first peaceful night in the home his late wife had chosen, yet here he was, being sized up like an intruder. "I live here," he said, steady but firm. The guard scoffed. "You? In this estate? Try again." Marcus felt the weight of every door life had closed on him, but tonight, one gate was about to open whether they liked it or not. Because in less than a heartbeat, the system behind those steel bars would reveal the truth, and nothing in Thornwood would ever look the same. If you want the next part, like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. The guard's laugh still lingered in the cold evening air when Marcus stepped out of the truck, the gravel crunching beneath his boots. The wind carried the hum of streetlights and the distant whistle of passing cars, but here at the gates of Thornwood Estate, everything felt unnaturally still, like the whole neighborhood was watching to see how far a man could be pushed before he broke. Emma's small face pressed against the back window, eyes shimmering with confusion. She didn't cry, not yet. She was waiting for her father to fix the world the way he always did. And that expectation, her faith, was the only thing stopping Marcus from shouting back at the guard, who now stood with one hand on his holster as if a single dad in an old pickup was the greatest danger in Calgary. "Sir," the guard repeated, "I'm going to need you to leave the premises immediately." Marcus kept his voice calm. "My daughter is frightened." "Lower your tone." The guard scoffed. "Maybe teach her not to trespass with strangers." Something shifted behind Marcus's eyes. Not rage, not fear, but a slow-burning understanding that this moment was bigger than him. Bigger than his truck, his clothes, his worn face. Bigger even than this guard's arrogance. He had seen this before. People deciding who deserved respect based solely on appearances. He had lived this before, in banks, dealerships, offices where his success never seemed to match what people thought success should look like. But tonight, someone had crossed a line by dragging his daughter into their prejudice. Marcus stepped closer. "Open the gate," he repeated, quietly but with absolute command. The guard stiffened. "Last warning." A second guard emerged, broader, younger, eyes full of swagger. "This guy again. Told you, wrong neighborhood. Let's move him along." Before Marcus could respond, the second guard pulled the truck door open, startling Emma. She let out a soft gasp. Her teddy bear slipped from her hands onto the floor. "Don't you touch her," Marcus said, the words steady but cold enough to make both guards pause for just a fraction of a second. But one fraction wasn't enough to stop the chain of events already in motion. The younger guard reached into the truck, intending to unbuckle Emma. Marcus grabbed the doorframe, blocking him. "She stays in the vehicle," he said. "Step back." The older guard lifted his radio. Dispatch, we've got a possible custody issue here. The phrase hit Marcus like ice sliding under his skin. Custody issue. The kind of coded accusation that could destroy a man in minutes. And that was when headlights appeared behind them. A sleek white SUV rolled to a stop, and out stepped Victoria Ashford, the unofficial Queen of Thornwood, president of the Homeowners Association, self-appointed gatekeeper of who deserved to live behind these iron bars. Her heels clicked sharply as she approached. Her expression sharpened with every step. "What's the delay?" "Ma'am," the guard said, "this man is refusing to leave the entrance. Claims he lives here." Victoria looked Marcus up and down with a precision so cutting it felt like a blade. "You live here," she repeated, almost amused. "That's right. My daughter and I." She raised a manicured hand, silencing him. "Please don't insult my intelligence. This community has standards." Marcus held her gaze. "Owning a home isn't a standard. It's a fact. And I own one." She smiled tightly, one of those smiles that only ever meant trouble. "Let's not make this unpleasant. Leave on your own or the authorities will escort you." Emma's trembling voice broke through the tension. "Daddy, I want to go home." It was that one word, home, that undid something inside Marcus. This wasn't merely confrontation anymore. This was his daughter's sense of safety being chipped away in real time. He looked at the guards. "Move away from my vehicle. Right now." But the guards didn't move. Victoria didn't move. Somewhere behind a row of hedges, a neighbor cracked open a curtain to watch. People online would later call it the moment everything shifted, though no one could see yet what was coming. And then, a soft mechanical chime broke the silence. A red scanning light swept across Marcus's face. The gate's security AI engaged. Facial recognition confirmed. The automated voice announced, "Welcome home, Mr. Bennett." The guards froze. Victoria blinked twice, as if the system itself had insulted her. It wasn't just that the gates opened. It was the way they opened, with slow, deliberate reverence, bathing Marcus in warm golden pathway lights while the automated system displayed his photo and ownership details. Everyone saw it. Everyone understood. And Marcus didn't have to say a word. He simply lifted Emma into his arms. She tucked her head against his shoulder, still shaken but calmer now. He turned back to the guards and said, "You threatened my daughter on my property. That ends tonight." But the consequences for them, the real consequences, didn't arrive until morning. The moment the footage hit social media, Thornwood Estate exploded online. Clips of Victoria sneering, guards yanking at the truck door, Emma's frightened voice, they spread everywhere. Millions watched. And millions had opinions. Some defended Marcus fiercely. Some demanded the guards be fired. Others called for an investigation into Victoria's conduct. But no one expected what came next. A former security employee, emboldened by the viral footage, contacted Marcus through his corporate website. He claimed he had information Victoria didn't want the world to know. A meeting was arranged in a quiet downtown cafe. He arrived carrying a brown envelope and a guilt he'd clearly carried for years. 5 years, he said, staring at the table. 5 years she's been making us target people who didn't fit her mold. Families pushed out, fines invented, reports falsified. She ran Thornwood like a kingdom, and we were her soldiers. Marcus didn't interrupt. "Last night wasn't the first time," the man continued. "It was just the first time someone fought back with evidence." He slid the envelope across the table. Inside were emails, recordings, even spreadsheets listing residents Victoria considered undesirable. Racial notes, income notes, vehicle descriptions. All marked with the cold precision of someone who believed no one would ever challenge her. Marcus exhaled slowly. He hadn't come here seeking revenge. But what he held now was more than leverage. It was truth. And truth always demands something. The next week was a storm. Reporters at the gate. Pay members resigning. Investigators requesting access to the evidence. lawyers circling Victoria like hawks that smelled blood. At the emergency town hall meeting, the room was packed, the air thick with tension and fractured loyalties. Victoria tried to speak first, but her voice cracked as she faced a sea of neighbors who finally saw her for what she'd been hiding behind manicured lawns and pristine appearances. "You humiliated this community," she shouted, pointing toward Marcus. "No," someone replied. "You did. It was your rules," another added. "And your discrimination," a third followed. Victoria's shoulders sagged under the weight of everything she could no longer control. When Marcus stood, the room fell silent, not out of fear but out of respect. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gloat. He simply said, "You judged me without knowing me. But worse than that, you judged everyone who didn't fit whatever picture you painted in your mind. And now the world is watching." The board moved quickly after that. Victoria Ashford was stripped of her position, fined heavily by the HOA auditors, referred to law enforcement for discriminatory harassment, and served with civil lawsuits from families she had wronged for years. Her perfect reputation shattered overnight. Sponsors pulled out of her charity. Her real estate license was suspended pending investigation. And Thornwood Estate, once her kingdom, became a place she could no longer walk without whispers following her like shadows. As for the guards, both were terminated. One faced charges for endangering a minor. The other publicly apologized, acknowledging the prejudice he'd acted on for years. And Marcus, he gained something far more valuable than vindication. The night after the final HOA ruling, he stood in the doorway of Emma's new room. Purple curtains, soft lights, a space his late wife had once imagined for their daughter. Emma twirled in the middle of the room, laughing, carefree again. "Daddy," she said, "are the mean people gone?" He knelt beside her. "Yes, sweetheart. They're gone." "Good," she whispered. "Because this is our home." Marcus pulled her close. "It always will be." Outside, neighbors gathered, not to stare but to welcome him. People brought baked goods, handwritten notes, even tearful apologies. For the first time since moving in, Marcus felt the warmth of belonging, not because of money, status, or appearances, but because he had stood up, not only for himself, but for every family who had once been silenced. And somewhere across town, in a courtroom hallway where her lawyer whispered grim predictions, Victoria finally realized the truth she'd spent years refusing to face. Even iron gates can't protect someone from the consequences of their own cruelty. And this time there was no system to open the door for her. No soft voice to say, "Welcome home." Only the sound of a judge calling her name. By the time the neighborhood quieted again, Marcus stood alone on his porch, watching the last traces of sunset fade behind the rooftops. For the first time since moving to Thornwood, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. What had started as a night of humiliation had turned into something far greater. A reminder that truth, once brought into the light, refuses to shrink back into the shadows. He wasn't the same man who pulled up to those gates days earlier. Something inside him had settled, not in defeat but in certainty. He had spent years lowering his eyes, choosing peace over confrontation, telling himself it wasn't worth the fight. But Emma's small voice, shaking unsure, had changed that forever. Protecting her meant standing taller, even when the ground wasn't even. As he stepped inside, she ran toward him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Daddy," she whispered, "we're really safe now, right?" He looked down at her, the glow of the hallway light catching her smile. "Yes," he said softly. "And we're not hiding from anyone anymore." Outside, the porch light flickered on, a gentle, steady beacon in the dark. For Marcus, it no longer marked a border. It marked a beginning. If this story moved you, help Canada's Heartfelt tales grow. Like, share, and subscribe so more people can follow the journeys that bring us closer together.